Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our series of Gen AI. We have covered many topics in the last couple of weeks, and today we are going to be focusing on Gen AI for finance departments. So we are excited to have you join. If we haven't met yet, my name is Ruthie Senanayaka, and I work on the marketing department here at Blueprint. And if you are not aware of what Blueprint does, hop online, look at bpcs.com, and you can learn a little bit about what we do. But we are a technology solutions company, and we work tightly with Databricks. So that's why this topic is going to be very tightly knit with that as well. And we have a special speaker today who's been running this series for us. Welcome, Gary Nakanalua. Gary is a author, speaker. He spoke at this year's Data and AI Summit. He's spoken actually many times before as well. And we're excited to get this one kicked off. If you have not joined the previous sessions, we did record all of them. They're on our YouTube page, so you can take a look on there. They're also on our LinkedIn page. So if you want to hop over there, you can check out the live streams on there as well. But we are excited to have you all on here. We want to make this as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions, feel free to add them in the chat, whether you're joining us live on StreamYard, whether you're joining us on LinkedIn Live or YouTube Live. You can put it in the chat no matter what channel you're on, and Gary will be able to see that live. And if you have questions that you'd like answered afterward, we have an email that you can send us. It is info@bpcs.com, and Gary will be sure to answer that for you as well. But without further ado, Gary, can you give us a little bit of introduction about yourself and hop right in?
Absolutely. So we'll just go ahead. So if you didn't know, we're here talking about Gen AI specifically with Databricks and how it can transform your finance department. And so, Ruthie, if you'll go to the next slide. Cool. So just really quick within the context of Databricks, who are we? 2022, we got Velocity Partner of the Year. This year, we got the Data and AI Governance Partner of the Year. And just across all the different areas that we work with, we've got a number of brick builder solutions. They have gone through a very rigorous testing with Databricks in order to find themselves in the marketplace. And they're centered heavily around whether it's Unity catalog migration or getting your lakehouse up and running. And then also migration from other systems into Databricks. So as Ruthie mentioned, definitely check those out on our website. She'll put the link in the chat. A little bit about me. So I thought what I'd do is something I'm known to do from time to time is two truths and a lie. So I'm going to show you on this screen three different things. Two of those are true. One of them is a lie. So just in the chat, you all can put in there which one you think is the lie, and we'll give it, I don't know, 30 seconds or so. We know there's a little bit of a delay when we actually get to see what everyone puts into the chat. All of those things are really cool things too. So cool. So of those three things, number one is actually the lie. I was never a forensic accountant. In fact, I've never been an accountant. And I've never actually been in finance. I was, in fact, in the Army for 9 years. Spent those 9 years in field artillery. So got to blow stuff up. That's actually how the recruiter got me to join, was started the conversation by saying, hey, you want to blow stuff up? And then finally, I have in fact been at Blueprint now for 10 years. I hit my 10-year anniversary this month, as a matter of fact. So for those of you that thought that number two was a lie, sorry, that one is a truth. Cool. So we'll go on to the next slide. So if I'm someone that's never been in finance, why in the world would I choose to evaluate and demonstrate the use of generative AI for finance. And really, it just comes down to I have this insane curiosity about how to help businesses, and all of us do here. And so we love the problems and the needs that get presented to us, and then evaluating how to bring together the strategy and the tech in order to solve those problems and needs. And so I put Willy Wonka on the screen there because throughout my time within tech, I have at times been referenced as the Willy Wonka. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing because, if you've ever watched that movie, which I hope you have, he's a little bit insane at times, but he is a lot of fun to watch, and some of the crazy things he comes up with is amazing. And so I take it as a point of compliment, if you will. So if you go to that next slide, Ruthie. So Gartner, they do a lot of surveys and analysis of the markets. And they recently, back in November of 2023, they had done a survey of 100 leaders in various organizations of various sizes that are all leaders within the finance department of their organization. And the survey was all around, where did they see the top use of generative AI in their department? And based upon the results of that survey, the top two use cases that were identified was forecasting, explanation, and then also data classification of revenue and spend. And so what I thought we would do is I'll actually demonstrate how you can leverage Databricks in order to start to address some of these use cases. And so we'll go to the first one. You just go to the next slide, Ruthie. Cool. So forecast explanation. If you've been around finance folks, they typically operate out of spreadsheets. They put together these massive all these different tabs, all these different like line items, and they kind of walk you through. Over time, these spreadsheets may find themselves into different dashboards, but even those dashboards require explanation. And so oftentimes the business is asking, very specific questions like, well, what does this mean? Can you explain some of the variances, for example, between the forecast and the actual type of thing? And so it's very dialogue based, and this is a great use case for Gen AI. So I'll actually demonstrate how this can happen in Databricks. And one question folks have asked me before is, well, why Databricks? So if you were at the Data and AI Summit, CEO for Databricks, a point he was making to folks is own your data. Keep your data within your data estate. Don't give it to anyone. Don't even give it to Databricks, right? Like it is yours and yours alone. And especially when it comes to financial data, you want to keep that as close as possible, within the organization. So things like Chat GPT, which are great, but you end up having to send your organization's data up to a third party in order to actually get any sort of value out of what those models provide. So by doing it in Databricks, you keep it within your data estate. It is yours. It doesn't leave your four walls, and you can work with it and ask a lot of different questions about it without fear of that data getting out. So we'll switch over. I'm going to kind of show my screen here. You could just, yes, awesome. So what you're looking at is a accelerator that we built. This is a Databricks notebook. And to save y'all some of the pain of looking at all the code, I hid some of the code in the cells, but later people want to geek out with me, I'm happy to do that. But I'm basically going to walk through it really quick. So we do some installation and things of that nature. For the sake of this webinar, what I opted to do was actually generate a synthetic sales and budget data. That way I wasn't sharing anybody's confidential information. But ideally what happens is that sales and budget data, it exists in your data estate, and then we just connect up to it. Really easy to do with like Unity Catalog and things of that nature. And then we import that in. So super simple to do. So I went ahead and just generated a synthetic data set, which basically represents sales data, budget data, and then regional data. And so you can kind of see I've generated that. And then I'm kind of going through, and now's where we start getting into the Gen AI aspect of things. And so one of the things that when it comes to leveraging Gen AI, it is that all important prompt, as it were. So some of you may remember when Chat GPT first came out, there were actual jobs that were being created, and their entire job was to engineer prompts for use by the organization. So the prompts themselves are really, really important. So what you're looking at here, this is the prompt that over a period of time and tested what we came up with. So you can see here that I'm just saying, cool, give me a forecast for the next 3 months and give me analysis of what's going on. And then you can see I'm also very, very specific of make sure it's detailed. So we feed it the synthetic data set here, and then we're leveraging Databricks foundational models, which is a really great way of taking advantage of all the new large language models that come out without actually having to keep infrastructure around to be able to run them. So some of you may be aware that these incredibly large language models, multi-billion parameters, it can take significant hardware to run this. So organizations like NVIDIA have really seen an explosive growth in sales because everyone's looking for GPUs to be able to run these very large models. Well, the good thing about on the Databricks side is they have a service called the Foundation. Well, it's Mosaic AI Foundation Model Serving. So they actually host the model themselves, and you basically can interact with it directly without having to keep that model on your own infrastructure. Saves an incredible amount of costs, and it's incredibly fast. And so when it's all said and done, I fed it this synthetic data, and it came back and said, okay, here's what I got for you. So it broke it down. Here's the forecast. So forecasted sales. Cool. Now start explaining it to me. And so it starts walking it through to me, someone that's never been in finance, in a manner that I can understand, and then start to provide any insights into what you've seen from the data. So you can see it's taken in some interesting information. And the cool thing about this is you can feed in not only sales, budget data, but you could factor in other data like holiday information, weather information, things of that nature, and kind of give it all to the model, and then it'll spit out this really good kind of human readable like representation of the forecast itself. And I took it a step further and actually had it display and visualize the information as well. So you can kind of see here how different regions and how predicted versus actual sales and where the budget variance is sat. So this is a really quick and easy way to get an understanding of that sales and forecast data. And you can continue to ask questions. So for example, inside of Databricks, they recently released what's known as Genie workspaces. So this may look familiar to some of you all. It's going to look a lot like ChatGPT. And so what you're able to do with Genie workspaces is point it to your data. And then you can see how quickly I just got this up and running using serverless. And then I can start asking questions of the data I gave it, right? And I won't put you all through everything, but what you're witnessing here is I'm having a conversation about the data, and I keep asking questions over time. So folks in the finance department, they're already pretty much analysts. So they have that question curiosity already in their head and kind of things they're going to look at. And so in essence, what these Genie workspaces are doing, it is converting this very real question that I'm asking in just human readable format, um, into specific SQL queries behind the scenes, and then asking and querying that data behind the scenes and coming back. So you can kind of see here, I started to notice, hey, what's the overall close rate? And I noticed it was a little off. I was like, okay, well, let's ask the question differently. So I started working my way through it. And so you can see I'm having a conversation with the data directly, and I'm telling it what I'm looking for. Right. And so this is going to enable your finance department as more and more data is coming in. They don't have to be data analysts. They don't have to be business intelligence specialists. Um, they only got to understand what questions to ask and continue to have that conversation with the data itself over time. And the more that they learn about the data and those questions, the more effective sales forecasting would be. So that's that one use case that we talked about. And then Ruth, if you want to flip back over to the presentation. So this next one is data classification. So we've talked a lot about data and how important it is and enabling people to ask questions of it. But then there's also you're adding additional data to that data. So one way is through data classification, right? We're looking for ways of classifying data in new and interesting ways because it enables us to ask new and interesting questions along the way. So what I've done, and if you'll flip back over to my screen. So this is another accelerator that we put together. So again, I'm hiding a lot of the code underneath, but again, for those that want to geek out with me after this, by all means, hit me up. First thing is, again, for the sake of proprietary information, just keeping it really simple, I'm generating a synthetic data set here, super simple. And what I'm trying to do here now is I'm wanting to classify the data accordingly. So in this case, I created two classifications. Class one is when I have high revenue and low spend. So I want to know those things because later I'm going to take that classification, I'm going to report on it to board of directors or to my boss or whomever. And then the other class is everything else for now. And so if you imagine just millions and millions of lines of data, and you're trying to apply this classification along the way, so you're doing this evaluation, or high revenue, low spend. And so you can actually use GenAI to do this automatically for you. So here you can see that I have given it my prompt of what to look for, and it has in turn added that classification to the data itself. And so it goes even further by saying, here are the insights from the data based upon this classification exercise. And so classification for your organization is going to vary depending on the industry you're in, the type of reporting you're wanting to do. But rather than having humans pore over millions and millions of lines of data and tables or spreadsheets or whatever, you can actually use GenAI to do this for you really, really, really quickly. So you can see it got through this really fast. And so that's that data classification exercise, or not exercise, but use case that can bring a lot of value, not just for awareness, but for reporting purposes and aid in the overall decision making that your organization does. And so if you'll flip back to the presentation, awesome. And then you can just go to the next slide. So I do have one more thing. As you have seen in these accelerators, I have been synthetically generating the data. Well, we wanted to offer the opportunity to all the folks that are here on the webinar to actually see how this can apply specifically for your organization. And one of the areas we see a lot with organizations is their spend and commit for their cloud resources, whether it's if you're on Azure, AWS, using Databricks. And so understanding how your organization is leveraging these cloud services, being able to accurately forecast and then be able to adjust your commit accordingly and help you with negotiating, whether it's because you need more because your organization is using more and they're using it effectively, or maybe you're looking to reduce the commit. Whatever your situation may be, what we wanted to do is actually offer up a workshop for anyone who's interested in this webinar. And what we'll do is we'll walk you through leveraging data from the Lakehouse Optimizer to be able to go in and actually get a commit forecast for your organization for your cloud spend. So Ruthie and the marketing team, they'll follow up and they'll provide you details on how you can set aside some time and no cost to you, and we'll just walk you through all the nuances of how to do that forecasting, leveraging the Lakehouse Optimizer. So that is all I have, Ruthie. So back over to you.
Just realized my mic has been muted. Whoops. Thanks so much, Gary. I'm going to add into the chat now 2 links. The first one is about LHO, the Lakehouse Optimizer, which is what Gary was mentioning. And like he said, I will be following up with an email if you'd like to schedule that workshop. So keep an eye out for that. The second link is for our next webinar coming up. This is for Unity Catalog. So all those Databricks users, if you have not yet migrated to Unity Catalog, you can join this. We also will be talking about, well, now that you're on Unity Catalog, what's the next step? So this is going to be led by Shannon Lauder and Tenny, and Shannon is actually a Databricks champion. So you don't want to miss out on this one. Bring your questions, be ready to ask them away because it's a great opportunity to get all of the questions that you have answered. So without further ado, I'm going to wrap things up, and I just want to thank you all for joining us. It has been a great session. We have one more coming up. We have not launched the date on that just yet, but this one will be focused more on the marketing side of things. So GenAI for marketing departments. Keep an eye out for that on our LinkedIn. If you're not following us on our social pages, I highly encourage you to follow us specifically on LinkedIn. That's where we will be posting the majority of our workshops, webinars, events, anything like that. If you are local in the Seattle area, we will be hosting an event in person. This is the SciPy event. It's going to be at our HQ. You can come and meet us, meet Gary, meet myself, and it'll be a really great one to attend. I will add a link to that in the follow-up email as well. But thank you all for joining, and we hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Thanks, everyone.